Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here in Munich with you today. I would like also to thank all the organizers. This will be a great event once again. But I don't think Estonia is perfect enough to teach other countries using our own examples, so I don't want to do that. With so many security experts in one room, you do not need me to tell you about the global threat posed by cybercrime. I think it is enough to say that today people and companies no longer think about if they are going to be hacked, but when it will happen. Or maybe worse, if they are not sure if they may already have been hacked. Are they prepared to deal with it? Are we? Will businesses survive? Is Europe as a whole prepared? At the moment, I would say, unfortunately, not. We're working hard to do something about it. Cyber threats evolve as quickly as technology, which plays an increasing part in our daily lives. All these devices, systems and services are connected, exposed and vulnerable. An attack might come from a hacker for political goals or one with financial motives. It might be a threat made through ransomware, a hybrid threat, or even nation-state cyber espionage. Or it might have no obvious objective other than to disrupt for the sake of it. The definitions are not as clear as before. Cyber weapons are also becoming a commodity. The concept of a predictable threat, as we used to know it, is long gone. Today, both the targets and the attack methods are far more unpredictable. I got first-hand experience of cyber attacks when I was Estonian Prime Minister. Over 3 weeks in 2007, a wave of distributed denial of service attacks crippled dozens of government and commercial services. It has been called Web War 1, and Estonia was clearly chosen target. Not surprisingly, Estonia has now fixed cybersecurity as a top political priority. Political parties and elections now also attract cyber criminals. This risk to our democratic processes is real, and one that we take very seriously. Critical infrastructure like transport, energy, banking, healthcare is at risk. No sector is immune from attack. We can no longer assume that our IT systems, emails, phones, personal computers are safe. But these fighting cybercrime, a one-sided battle, a struggle that criminals are winning. I do not believe that it is. But only provided that we do not become complacent. And only if we take these threats seriously and if we tackle them together. Given the speed of technological progress, countermeasures must be constantly updated to keep up with new challenges and risks as they emerge. How? Regulation is one possible instrument, and there is a place for it when appropriate. We can help ourselves with obvious precautions like using strong passwords, two-factor authentication, and preventing phishing by dealing systematically with strange emails. But the main thing is to work more closely together so that we reduce the risk. That means a solid commitment to research and investment in cybersecurity. It means we have to coordinate closely, share experiences and know-how, and help each other. And it means everyone: governments, law enforcement, industry, NGOs, research institutions, by sector, nationally as well as internationally. You probably recall the events of last November, when a vast international criminal infrastructure known as Avalanche was taken down. The operation involved prosecutors and investigators from 30 countries, with coordination provided by Europol and Eurojust. 5 individuals were arrested, 37 premises searched, and 39 servers seized. Victims of malware were identified in more than 180 countries, which shows just how far Avalanche's activities had spread. This international operation shows why we need to cooperate across borders. With the cyber threats, we are all in the same boat. So we are all at risk. Ultimately, it is individual EU countries that have to deal with attacks on networks situated on their territory. Some governments will also say that it is only they who can act to protect national security and nobody else. But no single country can realistically fight these attacks on its own. In addition, capabilities for dealing with the cybercrime are uneven around EU countries. That makes us all vulnerable to cross-border and cross-sector cyber threats. Mixed national approaches and poor cross-border cooperation weaken the effectiveness of countermeasures. International cooperation will help to fight an attack, certainly at the early stages, not only to remove a specific threat, but also contain it. Frankly, the world has been slow to do this. In Europe, we have not been coordinated enough to cope with the problem. And that problem is that we are fighting an almost invisible and unconventional enemy lurking in the shadows. It is time for Europe to catch up on cyber issues. I'm pleased to say this is now happening. For the digital single market to work properly, our digital networks had to be protected. Cybersecurity is top political priority for this Commission. As part of our commitment to make Europe a safer cyberspace, we can play an important coordinating role in shaping regulation, but only where it is needed. Last year, we set up the first EU-wide cybersecurity law, the Network and Information Security Directive, and we launched a public-private cybersecurity partnership to generate 1.8 billion euros of investment by 2020. The idea is not only to fight cybercrime effectively, but also to make sure that EU companies can compete in this fast-growing market with huge potential for jobs and growth. Working closely with Europe's cybersecurity industry is vital. Each of these steps forms part of a push throughout 2017 to strengthen the EU's overall capacity, cooperation and resilience in dealing with cyber attacks. Later this year, we will review the EU cybersecurity strategy based on 3 elements: directly tackling cybercrime, guaranteeing network security, and working closely with our partners around the world. Take the Internet of Things, where we know there are security concerns not only in Europe. As cyber-physical systems interconnect, they will become smarter, more powerful, and more capable. They will bring opportunities, social and economic. But they will also become more vulnerable to botnet attacks that may affect thousands of devices. The Commission has been working on how to improve the security of the IoT system. By 2020, we may be looking at around 50 billion connected devices worldwide. Since there are no rules yet for their security, we are looking at several options. These include codes of conduct for privacy and security, and certification schemes for network devices to provide a minimum level of secure authentication. EU-wide certification would help to strengthen trust and confidence in the online environment, and also make sure that cybersecurity products and services are technically compatible between countries. We are already aware of national initiatives to set strict cybersecurity requirements for ICT components in traditional infrastructure, including certification requirements. These are important, but we should guard against interoperability gaps, developing or different national requirements splintering in the EU single market. Ladies and gentlemen, while the Network and Information Security Directive is great progress, I believe that Europe needs a more systemic approach to cybersecurity. There is growing awareness that EU coordinated efforts, regulation as much as cooperation, can make a real difference to the resilience of European network and information systems. As we have heard lately, cybersecurity is no longer enough. We need a strategy of defense, prevention, and response. But what do we really mean by resilience? Resilience is an evaluation of what happens before, during, and after a digitally networked system comes up against a threat. Resilience accumulates over the long term, and most importantly, it should be included in overall business and organizational plans. That is what we, European industry, policymakers and leaders have to make sure happens on the ground, to create an environment where the public and private sectors work together to minimize the risk of cyber attacks. To think long-term, to prepare, to capacity build as a way to ward off attack, and to make Europe's digital services and networks as safe and secure as they can possibly be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. You have agreed to take a few questions, so it's now up to you to ask whatever you want. This is now the opportunity for you. Just raise your hand. Otherwise, I have a question. So. You mentioned that you were in Estonia the victim of the first web war. 60, 70 years ago, we created the NATO as an answer to a traditional war. Do we need now, right now, a similar organization in Europe or in the Western world to fight together the threats, the cyber threats?
I'm happy to say that the Cybersecurity Excellence Center of NATO is located in Tallinn, in Estonia. But as I said, cooperation is really important if we would like to deal with those cyber threats. In Estonia's case, just thanks to really fruitful informal cooperation between different CERTs, computer emergency response teams, majority of those attacks, they were cut, even they crossed our borders. So I believe no single country, it doesn't matter, big one or small one, is able to deal with the cybersecurity issues alone. We have to cooperate and we have to share information. I don't think we have to share information with tabloid media, but those who have to know, like CERTs, for example, they have to get information what kind of new weapon those bad guys are really using. Thank you.
Okay, there's one question in second row. Okay.
Question, sir. Oh, very good, thank you. The focus of this conference is industrial control system cybersecurity. In any business that has an industrial control system, we worry about security and we worry about consequences. On the business side, we might worry about stealing trade secrets. We might worry about stealing customer information. On the physical side, we might worry about power plants being compromised and the lights going out, water systems being compromised. In businesses that are involved with physical processes, can you talk about consequences? What kinds of consequences should these businesses be more or less concerned about?
Oh, so this will be a really long speech. I would like to add also our citizens. Our people, they are worried about their privacy. Is their privacy really protected? Our businesses, they are not only worried about their business secrets, but it's quite easy to order cyber attacks against somebody, some institutions, some political parties even. It's possible to take over the control about hospitals, for example, to use encryption to lock all the data, to get some money, and then to decrypt this data once again, and so on. So I think solution for all those threats is almost the same. At first, we have to cooperate. We have to share information, but we have to teach also our people, not only on this industrial level, but also our ordinary people. Too often people, they think that somebody somewhere there, I don't know who, Microsoft, German government, the European Commission, somebody else, CERT, they will protect them. But our people, they can also play a really important role. For example, if buying some new devices, air conditioner or mobile phone, I think it will be reasonable to change this by default setting, PIN codes and so on. You know, we all know how they are creating botnets. You know, it's so easy to take over control of those devices or things which have still those by default security settings. So we have to educate our people, as what it was mentioned in the very beginning of this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.